All right, good evening. I'll call our board meeting to order. This is the regular scheduled meeting for the Pasco School District Board of Directors. And let's see, let's start today with a flag salute. And we have Principal Brick Schultheis from Emerson Elementary.
Ready for me?
We are ready.
All right. President Christensen, board members, and Superintendent Whitney, it is my pleasure to share the microphone with some of our Emerson leaders. Each of these students are an ASB representative and support Emerson in a variety of ways. Ladies, please come up and introduce yourselves.
My name is Andrea Aguilar, and I'm the ASB treasurer of Emerson Elementary.
My name's Naomi Alvarez, and I'm the secretary of Emerson Elementary.
My name's Mackenzie Alves, and I'm the vice president of Emerson Elementary.
My name is Destiny Soto, and I'm the AS president of Emerson Elementary. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ladies. Why don't you come up here, and we want to get a picture with you, and we want to give you a little token of our appreciation for your coming and doing the service tonight. So I imagine we have parents of these young ladies here tonight. Would you mind standing so that we can acknowledge you as well? Thank you, ladies, and thank you, parents, for bringing them and sharing them with us tonight. And thank you, Principal Schultheis. All right, could we get a roll call, please? Present?
Present.
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 All right, thank you. Agenda review.
So there are no additions or changes to tonight's agenda, and we will not be requesting an executive session.
Okay. So we have some special recognition tonight. Mr. Shane Ettinger, do you want to do that for us, please?
Well, I can certainly get things started, yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Tonight we have the honor of recognizing a select group of Pasco teachers who are on a mission to do great things with their students inside their classrooms. For the last several years, the Mid-Columbia STEM Network and the Dream Builders Educational Foundation have worked together to provide STEM Like Me grants to dozens of teachers around the Tri-Cities area, including several here in Pasco. The goal of these grants is to help support hands-on learning in science and technology in the classroom. Tonight we have two members of the Dream Builders Foundation here with us to present this year's STEM Like Me grants to several well-deserving Pasco teachers. I would like to encourage the teachers when they come up to please stay up here at the front, because we would love to get a picture of all the grant winners after the presentations. It is now my pleasure, however, to introduce Judy Rialt and Bruce Hawkins with the Dream Builders Foundation to present today's STEM Like Me grants.
Thank you, Shane. Members of the board, Superintendent Whitney, members of the audience. On behalf of the Dream Builder, by the way, I'm Bruce and this is Judy, in case there was some confusion. On behalf of the Dream Builders Educational Foundation and the Mid-Columbia STEM Network, we would like to congratulate Pasco School District's 8 STEM Like Me grant awardees. Dream Builders and the Mid-Columbia STEM have partnered to create a STEM Innovation Award program, now in the year 3, to invite educators to enact their best ideas to provide students K-12 with STEM learning opportunities and engage community partners in the process. These grants range from $90 to $1,000 and will promote exciting STEM experiences for elementary and secondary students. Total Pasco School District grant awards were $5,918.57. Thank you to Megan Nelson for serving as our point of contact for the Pasco School District. At this time, I would like to have Dr. Rialt introduce the awardees and their projects, and they will receive a certificate. Dr. Rialt?
Again, I'd just like to compliment Megan. This is our third year for the grant, and this is the most applications from Pasco School Districts and the most awards from Pasco School Districts. So, awesome job. Alrighty, let's start with AJ Lambert. The project is Pasco Composting Project, Pasco High School. Amanda Baumgardner, Operation Salmon Celebration Project, Livingston Elementary School. Angie Jarvis and Loretta Hansen, the Rube Gold Project, Chiawana High School. Is it room? And then go. Devin Olson and Joelle Nunn, the VR Project and 361 Project, New Horizons High School. Fred Burke, To Dam or Not to Dam Project, Chiawana High School. Oh, okay. Felicia Jones, Scientific Photography and Microscopic Photography Project, Chiawana High School. Paul Frazier, Ongoing Design and Modeling Class Project, Ellen Ochoa Middle School. And Samantha Fulton, Friday Family STEM Challenge Project, Franklin STEM Elementary School.
You get,
In June, the awardees will submit a report to Dream Builders documenting their progress. We had the honor of viewing reports this last spring, and they were phenomenal. And we look forward to the reports this time around and learning about the impact that these projects have on students. So congratulations to all of our awardees.
Can maybe some of them explain what their projects were? I mean, I understand what photography is, but like like the BR project or whatever that was. Oh, yeah. So, can they kind of explain? Just a little bit. Just a little.
So do you want us to put the microphone down? Yes.
or just speak loudly.
Yeah.
That is cool. I like that one.
It's okay.
Oh,
I'm going to start us off. Okay, I'm Loretta Hansen, and I'm here with Shelly Crump and Fred Burke, and we are the sophomore STEM team at Chiawana, and what is it called?
Dam or dam?
something.
To dam or not to dam?
Right.
question.
So what
dam
we're going to
project.
be doing is the students, we're getting Legos and we're going to have them build riverways, and they're going to show the difference between what happens when you take out a dam, put in a dam. We're going to talk about the economics effect of dams, how it affects the Tri-Cities, recreation, commerce, et cetera, on top of the environment, which that's important to me, the commerce part is. And the environment too, but you know, I look at it from a different point of view than some people do. And what else are we doing with that?
And we'll be participating in the Salmon Days with the kids. Will make trifold boards with all of their findings about the field trips that we're going to take. We want to go to McNary Dam and have them examine the engineering that's involved in that before we start the big Mesa Day projects in April. So it's multifaceted.
Thank you.
Did we cover
Thank you.
it?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Felicia Jones. I'm a photography teacher over at Chiawana, and our grant is going to cover microscopic cameras, and we're going to just do kind of a scientific photography unit that we haven't been able to do or had equipment for, and then it's going to open up some photography contests that students can enter and possibly get scholarships for. So
Great.
that should be fun. And then we're going to share them with the science department and let them use them too for some projects. They're kind of excited.
Hi, my name's Devin Olson, New Horizons High School, and I'm doing the VR 360 project. And what that is we're getting some 360 cameras, and we're going to have the kids create virtual reality videos and pictures and stuff that they can then use to help. Well, we were going to team with some nursing home facilities, and we're going to offer opportunities for them to experience different activities that happen in the Tri-Cities, like maybe taking a walk or having playing with a dog or stuff that they miss out on, maybe graduation or something for a kid that they can do. And then our students are going to create these videos, and then the way the VR works is you can you put the headsets on, and then you can look wherever you want, and you actually feel like you're there and then experiencing it. So we're really looking forward to doing that.
Great, thank you.
Hi, my name is Angie Jarvis. I'm an English teacher at Chiawana High School. I'm part of the 9th grade STEM team along with Lorena Hernandez and Kent Nalford. So for our project this year, our students are going to be building Rube Goldbergs using simple machines. And so it'll be an integrated curriculum using information from the robotics class, where they'll be integrating their EV3 robots as part of the Rube Goldberg and what they're learning about physics and Miss Hernandez's class. And then for my class, we're going to be studying Romeo and Juliet, and rather than writing the traditional essay, the Rube Goldberg's going to be a metaphorical representation of cause and effect in that story. And so they're going to overlay the events of the story onto the physical mechanisms of the Rube Goldberg. And then we're hoping to share those projects with 5th graders at Ruth Livingston and 8th graders at Ellen Ochoa Middle School and at McLaughlin Middle School in February. Thank you.
Make sure you get some good video.
Will do. Yep.
Hello, my name is Sam Fulton. I am from Franklin STEM. Just one member of 4 team members, 5 actually, on the 1st grade team, where we're trying to collaborate and bring in the community and home life with our school by having Friday family STEM challenges that are related to our coursework, kind of that integrated STEM model that we're in the process of putting together and working towards. And it's just really trying to make it fun and engaging for the family members as well as the students to kind of show off what they've been learning with us. So it should be fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is AJ Lambert, and I'm the agriculture teacher at Pasco High School. And so our grant was for 2 compost bins so that we can update our equipment as well as integrate composting into our curriculum so students have a hands-on understanding of the chemical side as well as the actual process. And my hope is that we will be able to partner and continue to build our relationship with the master gardeners who provide us with seeds in the fall to then turn around and provide plants as then compost to the food bank here in the Tri-Cities.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Paul Fraser. I'm from Ellen Ochoa Middle School, and I teach a STEM class that uses a lot of computer design and rapid prototyping, 3D printing for students to design things, test them, and then redesign as necessary. And so I'm using this grant to get some replacement and spare 3D printer parts because we've had some of them go down and it's caused some problems. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Baumgartner, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Livingston. And my teammates and I wrote this grant to culminate a salmon study that we're going to be doing in the classroom. So we'll be raising salmon in our classroom and use the funds to visit Sacagawea Park and integrate what we've been learning in social studies with science.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our winners for those projects. They sound interesting. And thank you for making it real for our students. I think that'll be a great learning opportunity for them. And thank you, Mr. Hawkins and Ms. Rayald. We appreciate your support for our district and doing these things for us. So thank you and to you and your organization. So, this is the part of our meeting where we open it up to audience comments. So if there's anybody in the audience who has something that they would like to share with the board or address the board, this is your time to do it. We will allow you 2 minutes to speak. And then, so we'll open it up now if anybody wants to address the board. Anybody wanting to speak to the board? Last call. No scouts want to say anything? All right. So we'll close this audience comment portion of our meeting. Moving on now to agenda item number 7, approval of minutes.
Mr. President, I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of November 13th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the regular meeting minutes for November 13th, 2018. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Actually, I guess, all right. Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Personnel, warrants, overnight student travel, Chiawana High School, FCCLA students to attend FCCLA conference in Olympia, Washington. Overnight student travel, Chiawana High School speech and debate students to attend speech and debate competition in Spokane, Washington. Second reading and approval of Policy 4221, Title I, Parent Involvement, and Policy 4330, Use of School Facilities. Overnight and out-of-state student travel for Chiawana High School Ski Club to attend a ski trip to Bend, Oregon. Resolution 966, Resolution number 966, Final Acceptance of Early Learning Center Remodel. Resolution number 967, Final Acceptance of 2018 Portables Finish Work. Resolution number 968, Final Acceptance of Security Upgrades for Emerson, Frost, and Whittier 2018. Approval of Value Engineering Recommendations for Elementary 17 and Columbia River, which is Columbia River Elementary School. And then overnight student travel, Pasco High School students to attend the Bilingual Educators Initiative Recruiting Washington Teachers Grantee Gathering in Olympia, Washington. And finally, resolution number 969, authorizing license agreement with Franklin County Irrigation District. So that is our consent agenda. Could we get a motion?
Mr. President, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? If not, could we get a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Okay, motion carries. So, our consent agenda is approved. So, now we move on to action items. This is, happens every year where we elect board officers. So I am going to open it up for any nominations. So this, so we are electing a president, a vice president, and then I believe we are also electing, is there not a WIAA representative as well?
Number 10.
Yes, so,
We have the ledge rep and the federal rep.
so FRN or Federal Relations Network is not really elected, is it, Scott? I don't think it's elected, it's just,
We haven't in a few years.
yeah. Legislative representative is an elected position, but, do we do that? Do we elect those now? In June. We elect, okay, I was gonna say. I think that's a 2-year June to June term. So, which started actually July, 2-year term, starting in July 1 and ending June 30th, 2 years later. And I am currently serving as the ledge rep, have for a number of years. So, we won't do that election tonight. We'll do that, well, it was done in June of last year, so. Or no, June of this year, sorry. We're still in 2018, so. Yeah, since it corresponds to the legislative sessions, which we run on a biennium in our state, so this will be the first year of the biennium this year, so, or this next session, so. All right, so with that, any nominations for president?
I would like to nominate Steve Christensen to continue on as president.
All right, any other nominations? Do we have to second these? How does this work?
I'll second.
So we've got this is like a motion. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Would you like to continue as in that role?
Yes, I'm fine doing this. All right, so seeing no discussion, do we do a roll call? Yes.
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 Okay, so I will serve as president for another year. Nominations for vice president.
Mr. President, I would like to ask that Amy Phillips remain as vice president for the coming year.
So it's been moved. Do we need a second?
Do you want to do it?
Sure.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Could we get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 Okay, so finally, we have WIAA representative. So, Mr. Richardson, you're currently serving as that. Would you resist anybody?
No, I'm okay doing that again. If so nominated, I'll continue.
So could we get it?
I move that Dr. Richardson serve as WIAA representative for the next year.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that Dr. Richardson serve as WIAA representative for another year. Could we, any discussion? All right, could we get a roll call, please? Yes.
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 All right, so that concludes elections. Correct? Looking at our council over there. So not many changes in this coming year, so. All right, continuing on, now it's time for reports. So we're going to start with our student representatives giving a report from the WASDA conference. So we would invite them now to come and take the podium. And
As our students make their way down to the podium, I just wanted to remind the board that this is an expectation under the policy that outlines the requirements to be a student board rep. So our 3 student board representatives, along with 2 very dedicated chaperones who I believe I saw in the audience, Mrs. Dudley and Mrs. Benyon. Mrs. Benyon's not here tonight, but accompanied our student board representatives to Spokane, where they fully participated in our WASDA annual conference, and they're here in front of you tonight to summarize their key learnings from the event.
Superintendent Whitney, Board President Christensen, members of the board. Tonight we've been asked to present on our experience at the WASDA annual conference.
First and foremost, we'll be starting with, oh my gosh. One of the sessions that that me and another board member attended, which was preparing students for the year 13 and beyond. By far from the sessions that I attended, this one was one of the most helpful. This session was one of the ones that could be helpful and could be integrated into our schools. This Manson was the example that they that came and presented. It was fantastic because they gave the students so much freedom in what they wanted to study. For example, they gave the students student choice, and one of those things was self-directed study, which could, for one example, would be one of the students, after finishing one of their calculus classes, wanted to keep going and learning more of the calculus. And he found help, used the resources from his school, asked one of the teachers, hey, can you help us do some more research and teach us this to further our knowledge in this calculus? And that's something that they chose to do by themselves. And it really showed how this kind of wanting to learn more can benefit them in post-high school. Another thing that was really interesting that they brought up was the integrated courses. One of the examples that they brought in was language arts and biology, and how they meshed those 2 different subjects together. One of the examples that they chose to use was putting together, reading the novel To Kill a Mockingbird and searching up the scientist Henrietta Lacks. They chose those So each of the classes, the biology class took Henrietta Lacks and found another book that was similar to Henrietta Lacks, which they found out about genetic the genetic mutations in different people and how they can fix something like that. And to put it into the language arts, they found a book that could be similar to something that has to do with the genetic makeup of a person. Another one of my favorites that came up was the project-based learning. So each grade chose a project to do while in that specific year. And the cool thing about this was that every year, 9th through 12th had to do this project for specific hours for their community. And I found this very, very amazing because not only did they receive hours to graduate, they also helped out the community very, very much by cleaning up the streets and building houses. And it was just very wonderful to see kids my age and younger helping out their community so much, and having the community be so willing to let the students help. It was a fantastic thing to hear about. Sorry, I keep saying it's one of my favorites, but the career choice pathways, it's something that personally, from hearing from my sister and friends that go to other schools, is something that really isn't integrated in their classes. And I found that very, very strange because once you go into junior year and senior year, you start, wondering where you're going to go for college, how are you going to pay for college, and one of the things that comes into mind is jobs. And there's a lot of kids that go into want to find a job, and they don't know what to say in their interviews or how to form a resume, how to make a cover letter, and that's one of the most stressful things to have to worry about as a student when you're looking for a job. And by integrating more employee skills and post high school prep in these in schools, it would greatly help the majority of the students who are struggling. A personal experience, it came from my family. My sister, when she's applying for a job right now, and she came to me asking for help, how do I answer this question? Why should I be answering this, and how should I answer it? How do I fill up my resume? What do I put here and here to make it seem like I'm more qualified? And it was one of the things that she really struggled with, because those are the things that she's supposed to answer based on her own skills. And I'm her sister, obviously I should know these things about her, but she's the only one who knows what her skill set, her skills are, and what she can do. So being being me and helping her put those things into her own words was very, very difficult for her to understand. So by implementing more work-based learning into schools, it would greatly benefit the students. Thank you.
Okay. So, one of the breakout sessions I had an opportunity to attend was entitled Resilience Can Be Taught by Christian Moore. And in his presentation, he defined resilience as, he referred to it as grit, or the ability to bounce back and to overcome their current situation that a student is faced with. And he likened resilience to the visual that is before you. And the wall represents barriers that students face. And he shared that resilience is not just getting to the top of that wall and being able to see over. It is in each step that the student takes to be able to climb higher in order to reach that top of that wall. And he shared that part of creating a resilient school climate is helping students realize how they can make those steps and what they can do to be able to climb higher each time they are faced with something. And he shared the 4 key sources of resilience. And the first he referred to as relational resilience. And this essentially is that when a student understands and has those positive relationships where they realize that others are depending on them, they have a greater motivation to be resilient and to try harder to succeed. And then the next was street resilience. And this is essentially taking that pain and that the negative situations that they've been put through or that they feel like they are dealing with, and using that as or flipping the switch and using that as positive fuel to propel them to keep moving forward. And the next is resource resilience. And that is the knowledge, that's being able to recognize the resources that they have and being able to tap into those in order to increase their resilience. And the third is rock bottom resilience, which is the understanding that when they're at their lowest point and they feel as if they can't go on, they still keep that hope and they still fight. And the quote that by Christian Moore, the YTRI founder, was, "Resilience is a great equalizer. It transcends race, gender, culture, social and economic status, and literally any other aspect of your environment." Because each and every one of us have struggles and things that we are called upon to endure. And by having resilience, it is about helping each student find the steps to overcome their personal wall.
Okay, so I went to Character Strong and I actually attended this with Cassidy, Alpha, and Mrs. Dudley. And Character Strong is a curriculum that helps students develop social and emotional skills. So it's used for grades 6 through 12, and it can be used in a curriculum, or it can be used as an advisory lesson, which is what we have at the high school. And students will learn things such as kindness, they'll learn about service, empathy, and all of this, which makes the student feel more compassionate and they feel valued. And students are taught through character dares, which I will show you in a minute, as well as videos and activities. And the founder of Character Strong has created it so that way it's easy for teachers to use just at the click of a button. So some Character Strong dares for students. So I requested some examples, and they sent me from grade 12, lesson 22, which is Lifeless Introduction. So when you're going through the curriculum, they have a truth and a dare, and a student can either choose a truth or dare, and as that's their assignment. And so the next day they have to come back and report to their teacher on what they did, or at the end of the week. And so a truth could be commit to holding someone accountable with accomplishing a goal. And the dare, follow through on a plan that you've made with someone. So when I was reading about it, it sounds like you just make a plan with somebody and you have to go follow through with that. Or I like grade 11, lesson 11, civil discourse, which is something we all have to do. So the truth could be do not make a negative comment for the entire day. Or approach someone who genuinely aggravates you and try to have a positive patient connection with them outside of school. Ideally talk face-to-face, but it can be through email or Facebook message. So this could be your sister, your brother, somebody that sits across from you, anyone. And they also, what I really liked about Character Strong is they have Character Strong for the staff. So teachers can also do similar dares. And they gave us a card at Character Strong. They gave us a card, and this is what was on our card. So they're 40-week dares, and the first one, that was given to us, was how to intentionally greet your students. So you can greet them 1 week eye to eye, so look at them through the eyes as they enter the room. You can do name to name, so hi Isabella, I'm Mrs. A handshake, so hi Isabella, give them a fist bump, a high five, or anything. And the last one, heart to heart, so asking them, hi Isabella, how was your weekend, what did you do, or even just how's your day going. And yeah.
We'd like to thank the board for the opportunity that we've had to share and to attend this conference. And we'd also quickly like to thank our chaperones, Ms. Dudley and Ms. Benyon, for coming with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, students. So does anybody have any questions before they walk away? I'm not saying you'll get any, but.
You did a wonderful job and great sessions. I learned a lot from listening.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that with us. So it was a worthwhile experience for you to spend, was it 3 days up there? You went up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, okay. Well, good. Sounds like you learned some things, and thank you for sharing those things with us. So, board members, do you have any questions or comments for the young lady?
Yeah, thank you for presenting that. I went to some of those as well and was inspired. It's interesting to kind of tie them all together. They kind of challenge the status quo, right, of it seems like not just in Pasco, but just in public education in general over the last few years, it seems like we always are pushing towards more class time, more time to do all these criteria. We want to get everyone graduated, and sometimes some of these things get pushed out, not recognizing that, hey, recess is really important to elementary students. That makes them more effective in the classroom. Having a career plan, that's going to make you way more successful in life, not just finishing your algebra requirement, your LA requirement. And your character and social emotional development is super essential as well. And so I love that you guys picked those topics as things like, hey, let's see if we can move the needle back into working on more than just all of our book work that we have to meet requirement for graduation. So my question would be, as a Student Advisory Council, what are kind of the plans or next steps to maybe implement some of the things that you learned before you graduate in June?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
Well, you gave these inspiring messages and ideas, and so what's your plan? I imagine you'll meet with the Student Advisory Council, and so what are kind of the next steps? And maybe Ms. Whitney can help you with this, to kind of implement some of these things that you've learned and been inspired to implement as student leaders in our school district over the next 6 months before you graduate.
So we actually have a superintendent student advisory council tomorrow afternoon, actually. And it's interesting to me, every year when we start superintendent student advisory council, I always start with asking the students what are the things that are most important to them to talk about. And these things came up on the list of items that the student as a broad group wanted to study. The number one priority for that group was they wanted to talk about how to be prepared for life after high school. In one of the comments I kind of cracked up a little bit was, I need to know how to do my taxes. And I was like, okay, we can talk about that. So anyway, I just was giving you a little bit of an opportunity to think about your answer. I was stalling for you a little bit. How'd I do? Yeah? Okay.
You did good.
But we really are meeting tomorrow, and we have a really robust agenda, which will also include the students weighing in on the boundaries that you saw earlier. So we'll harvest some student voice that way as well. So Isabella.
And also, too, tomorrow Pasco High is having a group. They asked, Mrs. Dudley's actually hosting it. It's having a group of students involved in what's going on with the school and getting their feedback about what to do. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. I'm excited to see where this goes. You know, I'd be in favor. One of the things that was shared is kind of these projects and more career-focused pathways. I'm actually very much in favor of requiring a job shadow for all students to graduate. I think why a lot of that stuff went away is because there was fear that some students would not meet the requirement and then thus not graduate because they didn't meet service requirements. What a tragedy. But in reality, I've learned that we have like fall and winter graduations, and you can graduate till you're 21, and so they're not really left behind. If they didn't meet the criteria, there's still a chance, and so I'd love to see us bring back some of those things, but I don't know if everyone feels that way.
So do you know if, and maybe Mrs. Dudley can speak to this, did Pasco High School end up, because they were looking at, I think, 2 programs? And one of them was Character Strong. Did they end up deciding on Character Strong, or?
Did we decide?
So we have not.
Okay.
We are going to get students together, but we also are going to send some more staff members with students to go get trained in it. And the best way to go about it.
So you are implementing it, or you're implementing a different program? Oh. Oh, okay, got it.
But we're looking at it.
Something, okay, cool.
So one of the things that the Superintendent Student Advisory Council did last year was they actually did a 40-day kindness challenge because that was important to them to connect with each other. So your truth or dares from the Character Strong could be a challenge that, and we talked a little bit about this, that what was there something that we could do together as a collective body. So, you know, that could be something that you would bring to the group tomorrow and talk about how, you know, because the other thing that was really important to the group was how do we unify the high schools, all of our comprehensive high schools. So, you know, I think it's a good challenge that Dr. Richardson just gave you is how do we take these ideas that you guys are obviously very inspired by and get your colleagues tomorrow inspired by them as well.
Are you doing this presentation tomorrow?
We planned on it.
Okay. Well, just saying. Anybody else? So thank you. Thank you for choosing 3 wonderful topics. So now you can sit down. You can see we have some outstanding young ladies representing us and representing our students on the board. So, let me get back.
Mr. President, I'd like to present them with the Pasco Pride.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're we're going to get you up front and get a picture before this is all said and done. So, all right, thank you, ladies. So next we have a presentation by Dr. Susana Reyes, who is doing a long-term facilities management plan update, I believe. So while she's coming up, let me just, so we have 5 young men sitting up here. I see 3 of them, you can see their scout shirts. One of them is wearing his under his sweatshirt, I believe. And the other one is probably not. That would be Tyler. These are young men that I am their scoutmaster, so they are here tonight working on a merit badge. Which merit badge are you guys working on? Communications. And part of that is to attend a school board meeting and to learn about a subject, that there will be some different ideas presented, and then kind of make a summary of that and share that with our merit badge counselors. So these are young men from Troop 130, and they're here tonight to just see how this works. So, Dr. Reyes.
Thank you. Good evening, President Christensen, members of the board, and Superintendent Whitney. This report will focus on providing you just a brief update on the work of the technical working group and the community builders group as it relates to or regarding the long-term facilities management plan process. This is the timeline that we have established for the work, and most recently, the group has been focusing on prioritization of needs and also reviewing the district's financial status with regard to future bonding capacity. And this is a running record of the meeting dates for both groups, and recently, at the request of the Community Builders Group, the smaller technical working group met to begin an initial to develop an initial list of priorities based on the information that we've reviewed thus far. And then last week, I believe, December 3rd, was that last week? No, yes. Last week, the technical working group and the community builders group came together again to work through a process together to further develop that list of priorities. And the group used information and data that they've reviewed and studied over the course of the past several months. And some of that information and data that they reviewed is listed on this slide. And earlier this fall, the district enlisted Northwest Municipal Advisors, which is an independent financial advisory firm. And we've asked them to provide the district with financial analysis and information as it relates to future bonding capacity. And Mr. Scott Bauer is here this evening to provide information about the firm and also to present an overview of the district's current standing. And Mr. Bauer has presented to the Community Builders Group at 2 meetings. So I will hand the next few slides over to Mr. Bauer.
Okay, great. Superintendent Whitney, Board President Christensen, and members of the board. Again, Scott Bauer with Northwest Municipal Advisors. So as Dr. Reyes said, we're an independent financial advisory firm, meaning that we're not affiliated with any financial firm. We've been providing financial advice since 1996, doing capital planning, just like what we're doing here with your Community Builders Group. We're regulated by the SEC and the MSRB, and we do have a fiduciary duty to those who we work with. So sometimes we get questions asked about, what's happening in the bond market, so I thought I'd show that. I know we're not issuing bonds here anytime soon. You actually just did that back here in the springtime. But nevertheless, I just thought I'd give you a sense of where interest rates are at. So that's what these graphs here show. It's the same data, just over 2 different periods of time. So the graph on the left-hand side is long-term, well-rated bonds, general obligation type bonds, so exactly the type of bonds that a school district would be issuing. So the graph on the left is the past 3 years. So you can see there was a dip down in around July of 2016, and that was right after the Brexit vote in the UK. So interest rates dipped down. They've since trended upward, but if we take a look at the interest rate graph then on the right-hand side, extends back to 1990. by historical purposes, interest rates are still exceedingly low. They have been, though, again, on the upward trend, but actually the past couple of weeks, they've come down. So you never really know where they'll go, but it's, anyway, good for issuers right now. This slide here is the district's outstanding bond debt. So we listed out in that table each of the district's bond issues. So on the left-hand side is the name of the issue going back to 2010. The principal amount of bonds outstanding, so all told among all 5 bond issues, the district has $211 million outstanding. We always look at how much, well, actually I should, on the right-hand side, we list the call dates of the bonds. So when bonds are issued, they're typically issued with a 10-year call date, meaning you can't refinance that debt before that period of time. But after that period of time, you may do so if it makes sense to do it. And so listed on the right-hand side are the call dates. So when we take a look at your bond debt, we always look to see, is there anything that's on the near horizon that could be refinanced to potentially save money? At this point, the call dates are far enough out in the future that you don't have anything to refinance at this point. The bars down below, so the different colors represent these 5 different issues. The bars themselves are debt service, which is principal and interest payments. And you can see that the debt escalates each and every year, and that's very common for both school district and for voted debt, because a lot of time the debt is shaped in order to achieve a level levy rate. So based on an assumed growth in the community on assessed value, if the growth rate in the debt matches that growth rate of your AV, then your levy rate would stay stable. And that's what really this next slide is meant to represent. So I've done a little bit of a shift on you here. The red bars now are the same that we saw earlier. The multicolored bars are now represented here in the red. So those are your bonds. And then the green is your EP&O levy. So those are the dollars that you're bringing in at an assumed rate of $1.50 levy rate.
Sorry, can you go back on the previous slide? Can you tell us what there was a coupon rate?
Yes.
The range, what does that range mean?
So each bond that is sold, so each maturity that is sold, so whether we're talking, a bond that matures in 2019 or 2020 or 2021, each of those would carry a different interest rate. And generally the ones nearer would have a lower interest rate, the ones farther out would have a higher, generally speaking. And that's what these interest rate ranges are meant to show, that your bonds carry, in the case of your 2010 bonds, interest rates that range from 4% to 5%. And then,
This is 4 to 4?
oh, I'm sorry. So those, all your bonds that remain on that issue, which mature in 2 years, have just 4% coupons.
So do we generally want to pay off the ones with the higher range first when we're, like, sometimes it looks like we're paying some of them off in bigger chunks? Or is this just set up to pay off quicker the ones that are older?
Yeah, so you would be paying off these bonds as they're scheduled to do. So you can't leap ahead and try to refinance debt that's, say, a higher interest rate. Once you get to the call date, you can then refinance all of the debt, all the debt of that issue that's currently callable, or you can choose to not refinance it. And again, this date that's listed there is the first available date. If you don't do it on that date, you still have the option to do it at any other date after that date.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think going forward, you have about a $3.93 levy rate. That'll be made up of $1.50 on the EP&O and about $2.43 on your bonds. So again, the line shown there represents a level levy rate, assuming that your AV grows at 3%, because that's how the debt is shaped. So if the assessed value grows at more than 3%, then your levy rate will fall, and if it grows at less than, then it'll increase. So in addition to simply a community's ability and willingness to pay, and looking at how much debt could you incur, you're also limited by state statute in how much general obligation debt you could incur. So that's, on the voted side, is equal to 5% of your assessed valuation. So the table there shows how we get to the calculation of how much general obligation debt you have or remaining. So on a preliminary 2019 assessed value of just over $7 billion, on the voted side, you would have about $354 million of capacity at the top level. We then have to deduct how much debt you currently have outstanding, and so then that leaves us with $143 million of debt capacity remaining, which is 40% of your total capacity. So as AV goes up, or as bond debt gets paid off, your debt capacity increases. So that's then this bottom bullet here, is that over the next 4 years, about $46 million of debt will be paid off. And if we don't factor any changes to assessed valuation, then your debt capacity increases to $189 million. So we've, over the past 2 meetings with the community builders, we've provided a number of scenarios, and really what we were trying to do was provide them with a look at, if we issue a couple of different sizes of bonds at a couple of different times, what is the impact to the levy rate? So what I'm going to show you here are 2 of the scenarios that we presented to them. So this represents a $100 million sale done in one sale. Again, the green and red bars are the same that we'd seen previously. The blue would be new debt. So this assumes that, say you have a vote in 2021, the vote is successful, and that you issue the bonds late in 2021 for starting payment in 2022. And that's, again, what the blue represents. The levy rate increases from 2021 to 2022 by 73 cents. And on the far right side, you can see what the impact is to a homeowner based on a $200,000, $250,000, or $300,000 home. So for instance, on a $200,000 home, a 73-cent increase in the levy rate would be $146 to the homeowner, or $12 a month. So again, this is the impact on a $100 million sale. The next slide.
Quick question. On
Yes.
the M&O levy, it's the green line, right? The enrichment levy?
Oops.
Right.
Yes.
At the bottom.
Yes.
How do we have it at less than $1.50 the next couple of years when we passed a levy at that rate? So it looks like it's at the dollar rate for a few years. The green line.
Right, so the green bars are not the levy rate, they're the levy amount. So what's not shown here or broken out is the levy rate for either the bonds or the levy.
Okay.
So the green, all the bars.
Purple line is $1, goes on the right, okay.
Exactly. So this is then the $150 million example. So this would be an increase from 1 year to the next of $1.09. On a $200,000 house, that's $219 for the year, or $18 a month. And as I said, we've provided several other type of scenarios. We've provided doing $150 million, but do it in 2 sales, where we maybe do a sale in 2021 and then $75 million, another half, say, 2 years later. We've also looked at spreading out $150 million sales over 5-year periods. So I think this is all to say there's a lot of scenarios to be run as we're working with your community builders, working with your facility group, so that all of it can match up to what does the district need, when does it need it, and how much will it cost your taxpayers, and is that is there the ability and willingness to pay for it? And I think that concludes my part of the presentation.
Thank you so much. Can you go back a couple of slides to the one?
I think so.
The outstanding district bond.
Yes.
Debt and tax rate. So I just wanted to point out, so in here, the one after the one you were on, yes, this one.
Okay.
I don't know if you can enlarge that, but so that graph, I really like this, because this, if I'm looking at that right, so the levy rate, you said was 393. So in the past, our levy rate's been about $6. So I just want to point out that our taxes, this is very good for Pasco. So our state tax did go up by $1, but we've dropped by $2.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
your
Good
tax bill next year, property taxes is going to be less, unless your house increased in value by over $50,000. So, but essentially everyone's tax bill is going to go down. So I'm really excited about that. Everyone should be excited about that. We're what the state did was very good for our community. It was not good for all communities. It was not good for some west side of the state communities. But for Pasco, who people have just pointed out that we've had a very high rate, one of the highest rates in the state for years, and now let's recognize now we don't. We got a huge benefit, things were reworked, and now our tax rate has gone down significantly, which is awesome because we're still a growing community and we were building all these schools, and now your rate, your property taxes next year will go down.
Right. Great point.
Was that accurate? If I did,
No, you're
did I
absolutely right.
misspeak at all? Okay.
No, and I'm thinking as a resident of the west side that maybe time to move over.
I apologize.
Depends on how many kids you bring with you.
Yeah. Hey.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Okay. So that was the main portion of our presentation this evening. The Community Builders Group will meet again on Monday evening to continue the work on developing a prioritized list of needs. Then we'll use that information with this information that Mr. Bauer has shared with us to date, along with all of the other data and information, construction costs information, school capacities, et cetera, projected enrollment, to begin really developing what a timeline for the projected future work would look like for our district in terms of facilities. And we'll be providing you board updates. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Reyes. Does anybody have any questions? Comments on this presentation?
Are there any more committee members in here? I know I saw one leave. Are there any more? You know, Dr. Reyes, is there somebody that I'm missing?
Randy and Kevin, our two staff members, have been part of the committee.
Okay.
And there was another person here, but they're not here anymore.
I'd also like to remind the board that
Sherry's on the
has
committee?
been serving as the board's liaison member and real dedicated to that process, so we really appreciate your partnership, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the work. As I was looking through what you've done, you know, you're just in the process of doing this, but you have provided such valuable work for us as a board that we have really needed. The capacity, the projections, the school size, the school site size, all of these things that have not been set in stone in our district, that have been really fluid and they change all the time. And we just appreciate numbers that are going to stay the same, that are going to be consistent. And like a school site size, we can only buy certain amounts of farmland, and generally it's in chunks that are really similar in size that we don't need all of it. Instead of wasting all that space, let's do what's best for our community in being financially responsible, and yet giving our children enough space to be educated in a way that they need to. And they have come up with these numbers that have really helped make our jobs easier.
Thank you. They've been wonderful to work with. They're a great group. We have a good time together.
Yes, thank you. And I don't want to jump ahead to the next couple months, but, there's been a lot of concern in our community that we still have a big need for schools, high school, another middle school. We have a lot of need, especially if sixth grade is going to go back to middle school. Now our middle schools are going to be way overcrowded. So this is reassuring that we're going to have the capacity to do that in the future. One of the challenges will be, and this is where it gets difficult, is with matching funds, right? And the state's constantly changing that formula. And I think in the past, sometimes we maybe have not been aggressive enough because we didn't feel like the match was sufficiently satisfactory. And because of that, I think our students have suffered. And like Ms. Phillips described, and maybe a situation where they're overcrowded, and it has had at times a bad effect on their educational experience. So I'm excited to kind of see those, as we get planning and get to more of the details. I know that's going to be one of the tough questions, how aggressive can we be wisely, managing the financial aspect of it smartly, but also not allowing our students to be overwhelmed or have their educational experience be detrimentally affected because of overcrowding.
Anybody else? So thank you, Mr. Bauer, and thank you, Dr. Reyes. I struggle with that.
Thank you for saying it that way.
I'm not very good at putting that
great.
R right
It's
with
great.
the Dr. Reyes. So this is exciting, I think. So I know Dr. Richardson's been a big proponent of be aggressive. Let's get a big bond, and we have that capacity, it looks like, to do well over $100 million bond when we and we could do that. That's not our capacity right now, is it? 149 or something like that, is it? And then in a couple years, I guess it was 5 years, it'll be 189. That's assuming no increase in assessed value, which would be very unlikely. So this gives us an opportunity to do some things, and like Dr. Richardson also pointed out, our tax rate has gone down. So if we can time it correctly, then and message it right or educate people, then we have a real opportunity here. And I'm looking forward to some exciting results and recommendations coming from our group of community builders and our technical working group on that. So thank you for your work there. I notice both with this committee and with our boundary committee, you guys are working through the holidays or right up to the holidays. So
Well, we worked over the summer, may as well work over the holidays, right?
well, thank you for your commitment, and don't overdo it. But these things are important to us,
They are.
and timing is critical as well. So,
Yes,
so
time
thank
is
you.
of the essence, and so.
Yes.
The fact that we're
hard.
using the information as fast as you're giving it to us, that just shows you how critical that committee is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Reyes, and the rest of your committee. Thank you for
You're
coming
welcome.
and sharing with us, and we'll look forward to the future result. So,
Thank you.
any other comments from the board? If not, this is where we will open it up. If anybody in the audience wants to comment to the board on either our student presentation or on these long-term facilities management plan, then you are invited to come and share with us your thoughts. We'll give you 2 minutes.
And I don't know if I can even do this, but I would love for you to convey our thanks to that committee, that the rest of them, and just reflecting on how much we have valued their information, how much we've used it, and how important they are to the work that the district is doing, and the time that they spend. We just really appreciate it. I think the board feels like that. I know I do, and I would love for you to convey that to them.
We'll certainly do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody want to share anything with the board? All right. Seeing no takers, we will move on. So, looks like we don't have anything under extended study tonight. Future agenda.
So on January of 2019, I can't believe it, it's going to be 2019 when we see each other again, we will have a study session. Dr. Jenny Rodriguez is prepared to share with you some secondary procedural updates. So just for the board's kind of awareness, you vote formally on district policies, but procedures are an area of district operations that I work with staff to align our procedures with the operational expectations that you have given me over the last couple years, but they don't require a formal vote of the board. Now, that being said, I think that it's really important that you're aware of procedural changes when we make them, especially when they're specific to things that have been of community interest or board interest in the past. So Dr. Rodriguez has done a phenomenal job since she's been in her new role for like 4 months, in starting to really align some of the large procedural pieces to align with our consistency, efficiency, proactivity, and customer service, which was an operational expectation of the board. So she'll be in front of you for a study session on January 8th, where she'll share with you procedural updates around PE waivers, high school registrations, and boundary exemptions for the middle schools. So those will all be procedural updates that she'll give you. Again, no formal board action is required. However, we would like you to be aware of the procedural changes that she's making, and I want to acknowledge her efforts in that regard as being just absolutely fantastic. During the board meeting, we have designated a slot for a boundary update, depending on where the community group is with their work. They could potentially need to be up in front of you again. Should we need to push that back to January 22nd, we'll do that. But for right now, our intention is to have an update. And then we're starting a series of social emotional program supports, reports on those programs, because it was a huge push at WASDA. We have been really academically oriented in our reports to you over the last couple years, and we feel like there needs to be a little bit of a balance in what we've shared with you, because we have great things going on in our schools. The first, what we're starting with, is an update on community in schools, the schools that it's in, et cetera. So Eric Bowles will be presenting that.
Can I make a request on the procedures? That you may have already done this, but I think we needed a check, and maybe this was done again on we have policy that often references that there will be a procedure, and at one point we were going to do a check to make sure that all those gaps where we were missing procedures where policy called for it was created and checked.
So Sarah has been working with WASDA to do a policy analysis, and they're taking appropriate action. So we're handling that.
Okay, thank you. So this is the communications part of our meeting. So any board member who wants to share anything, they can do so at this time. So we'll start with Mr. Lehrman.
And I'll go back real quick with another question on future agenda items. Do we have a date for talking about, I don't know what we're calling it, whole child experiences or capstone experiences? Is that going to be in the spring, or is that on the calendar already?
So we're referring to it as Hallmark Experiences,
Hallmark
and it is designated in the spring. I can't remember what the date is, but it's on the agenda.
All right, thank you. So as the student board reps said, we all attended WASDA. I had a great time as usual and learned a lot. I focused this year myself on social emotional learning, and almost all the sessions that I attended were on that. And we all had a lot of good discussion about what we learned and different social emotional topics. Also, as a board, 2 weeks ago from tonight, 2 weeks ago last Tuesday. So if you want to see that, I guess, no, you can't. We didn't record it, did we? We didn't record it. There's a lot of good discussion there, and you'll see the extended topics that come out of that, as Ms. Whitney mentioned. I went this past week and had a chance to visit Whittier, so thank you to Victor Silva and the teachers there for showing me around the school. I took my 2-year-old, and she had a great time pretending that she was in kindergarten. A teacher or two even asked when she was going to be coming to school. They thought she was in a kindergarten age, so she was going around in her backpack and enjoyed the hospitality that they showed there. Attended my own children's parent-teacher conferences the last few weeks, and I know that many of the teachers in the room and in the district and principals, administrators have been busy planning for that, so thank you to all the teachers and administration that welcomed the parents into our classroom, and kudos and additional thanks to those teachers who go above and beyond and try to recruit parents during that time to be more involved in our schools. More parent involvement makes for better schools, and appreciate that as well. And I'll pass to Ms. Lankin.
I'll pass.
Enjoyed WASDA, like Mr. Lehrman mentioned. To enhance my experience, I actually attended the musical Newsies at Ferris High School on the Friday night because my niece was in that, and so that was a great addition to all the inspiring lectures I was able to attend. This last week, I had lunch with a kindergarten class at Franklin. It was an interesting experience. I think I got asked about 287 questions. Typically, guess my name, guess my birthday, what's my favorite cake, do you know what chocolate milk is? And after one student actually knew their last name and spelled it correctly because he's my patient, but the students were so amazed that one of the other students said, "Teacher, you know everything." And so they were quite impressed. But then, anyways, it was fun, and that is a big event at many of our schools, lunchtime, so, but it went quite smoothly. I'm excited to visit the last few schools that I haven't visited yet this year over the next couple of weeks.
I just want to say that I had a great time at WASDA, and I got a great time getting to spend more time with the girls, and I'm very thankful that I was able to go. I also have a couple announcements from Pasco High. So this weekend, the cheer team hosted their 3rd annual cheer showdown. We hosted 11 schools with 22 teams. And we also have Best of the West Wrestling coming up next Friday, the 21st, and Saturday, the 22nd. And we need volunteers. And so if any of you are interested, to contact Coach Jay Covington. And also, Pasco High recently started a new tardy policy, and we've seen a very good decrease in tardies. As a student, Mr. Elfring, but 1,056 students had at the school as of 12/10 had 0 tardies. Only 150 students have more than 6 tardies at the school, so that's very good.
That's an improvement.
And also, it's early release tomorrow, so I'm excited.
I'll pass.
I'll have to agree with Isabella. WASDA was fantastic. Not only was it great to have a new experience and to spend time with getting to know the girls, it was great to just gobble up so much food. Honestly, they fed us like we were like kings and queens over there. They fed us all so good, and it was great. I felt like I couldn't eat for like 2 days, but it's okay. I just wanted to tell you all thank you for attending, and I hope everyone has happy holidays and a happy new year.
WASDA is a little bit awe-inspiring. You walk into this room and there's 1,000 school directors from around the world and these huge rounds. And they do feed us a lot. It's like lunch and then you go to a session and then an hour later they have snacks in between. And it is, I don't know why they feed us so much, but they do. So maybe it's, I don't know. Anyway, but I love WASDA. I look forward to it every year. Even with the sacrifice of leaving, I think a lot of moms, maybe dads know that I don't know. Sometimes you're like, why am I doing this again? This is so hard. And when you leave, then you realize, okay, this is why I do this, because it is so informative. And I, once again, really enjoyed it. I've been on the board. That was my 6th WASDA, and I continue to learn every single time I go new things, and it helps rejuvenate me in my job and my role, and so I really appreciate that. And the board meeting two weeks ago, the study session was great. It's really nice to be able to come together as a board and talk, and we got to talk about WASDA as well as different things over, like we talked about our own board self-evaluation so that we can do better and serve our school better. So we do evaluate ourselves, and I think that's really important so that we can improve. I think we all have room for improvement. So we really enjoyed that as well. And then I serve on a committee called Team Pasco, and they had kind of an emergency meeting because the Team Pasco house, the sale has fallen through twice, not for any reason the lack of, in fact, the first seller now has another offer on board. He was so impressed with it after losing his, what do they call that? Anyway, the earnest money. And so that's impressive. But I mean, you know, one sale of their house fell through, which was contingent upon the sale. So things that were really unforeseen. And so it's caused a little bit of cash flow issues with the new house, obviously, because usually that house sells really quickly, which it would have, but with two sales that are in escrow for a long time and fall through literally one of them the day of signing. So it's been an interesting journey, but I love serving on that committee and learned a lot at WASDA about a construction program that really helps our kids be marketable after high school. So it's been fun.
So, as has been mentioned, we did attend the WASDA conference, and our board was recognized as a board of distinction again this year. So we got a little recognition there at that conference, as well as food and some education. So at Thanksgiving, and they're doing it again at Christmas, New Horizons High School, and I believe the other, is it horticulture, the classes, or floriculture, where they do the flower arranging, make some flower arrangements, and I had purchased some from New Horizons High School, went down to pick them up, and this was the day before Thanksgiving, and just got a tour of their school and the things that they do before the holidays. I think they'll do it again before Christmas, last day of school before Christmas, to engage their students and keep them involved in school. So if you have an opportunity, you might check out New Horizons High School on the last day of school before Christmas this year. Also attended a Pasco High School Kennewick wrestling match, and it went really well for all but one Pasco wrestler. They did lose one match that night, but they won all the others, and it was. And unfortunately, the young man that I went to see, who was a scout at one time, didn't wrestle that night. But it was fun to watch the other wrestlers. And then I understand just this last weekend that both Pasco and Chiawana did really well at the tournament that they had. So exciting for our wrestling program. That's it.
I just wanted to acknowledge, we had this weekend the first Lego League competition at Ochoa Middle School, and I stopped by on Saturday, and it was absolutely incredible. We'll do another, this was a state qualifier for first Lego League, and so there was schools from not all over, but they're not just Pasco schools. There were other schools there. We will host our own in the spring, and I would just really encourage you as a board and as an audience, if you haven't been to one, to go. And I just wanted to highlight, you talk about kind of this focus on social emotional. So they're challenged to create a project, and one of our Emerson students, they created what was called like the zones of regulation, and the kids clearly know what emotions are attached with these zones of regulation, and they know that yellow emotions are like if you're embarrassed or what, and you would go in this box and it had the colors that if you're a yellow emotion or a blue or a red or a green, and then it had like if you're green, you're feeling these emotions, and then it had the specific tools to use that would help you regulate that emotion. So red was anger, so there was a punching bag and a thing you could snap, and one of them was, if you're feeling irritated, then there was like little things you could smell. And the young man who oriented me to his project knew and understood all of those things. They use it in the classroom, and actually one of the young men became agitated during the event and went over and put himself in the box and regulated his emotions in the zone of regulation. And I was like, I think we all should have one of those boxes. Like, I want a grown-up size one for my office. It was absolutely incredible. So when you're talking about real relevant, hands-on, genuine, authentic learning, like I was absolutely blown away. It was phenomenal. And I would encourage anyone who goes to Emerson to ask about the zones of regulation at Emerson. It is truly a real and living thing there. They did an incredible job. And then I just wanted to acknowledge that we had our first 2-hour delay, I hope our first and last disruption to school because of weather. And I wanted to acknowledge Steve Story and his team. Steve's brand new in that role. There was someone new filling in for Jose Hernandez in that role. So new team on board, did a great job, and I appreciate their hard work and dedication in making sure that we get to school safe, and then community and staff's patience when we have to make those difficult decisions. So first and last, that's my goal. We'll see how we do. So thank you.
All right, thank you. So we do not have an executive session this evening, so with that, we will adjourn and wish everybody a happy holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate. Merry Christmas, or thank you for coming.